Welcome to Section 7. In this section, we're going to talk about how to work with correlations. Specifically, in this section, we're going to take a look at the Pearson correlation coefficient, and we're going to talk about its theory and its assumptions. We're then going to go through an example of how to use the Pearson correlation coefficient and how to interpret its output. From there, we're going to move on to how to create scatter plots so that we can visually assess the relationship between two continuous variables. In this video, we're going to talk about the Pearson correlation coefficient, both its theory and its assumptions. Specifically, in this video, we're going to take a look at the purpose of the Pearson correlation coefficient. From there, we're going to move on and talk about the hypotheses for the Pearson correlation coefficient. After that, we'll talk about the theory and the formulas behind this statistical procedure. And then finally, we're going to talk about its assumptions. The Pearson correlation coefficient is used to quantify the strength and direction of the relationship between continuous variables. The Pearson correlation coefficient is a measure of the extent to which there is a linear or a straight line relationship between two variables. Assessing correlation coefficients allows researchers to determine both the direction and the strength of this relationship. For example, we could use the Pearson correlation coefficient to assess the relationship between SAT scores and first-year college GPA. And then we can determine if one variable increases or decreases in relation to the other variable. With regard to hypotheses for the Pearson correlation coefficient, as usual, we have both a null hypothesis and an alternative hypothesis. The null hypothesis is stating that there is no relationship between the two variables. That means that the variables are independent of each other. They're not associated. The research hypothesis, or the alternative hypothesis, is stating that the variables are associated with each other. That means that as one variable increases, the other variable increases or decreases, but there is some kind of association with these variables. The correlation coefficient is going to measure the extent to which two continuous variables are linearly associated. The correlation values are going to range anywhere from -1 to +1, where a +1 represents a perfect positive linear relationship, meaning that as one field increases, the other field also increases at a constant rate. And likewise, a -1 represents a perfect negative relationship, so that as one field increases, the other field decreases at a constant rate. What we also have is that a value of 0 represents that there is no linear relationship between the two fields. In essence, the null hypothesis is really stating that the correlation between the two fields is going to be 0, meaning that there is no relationship. The alternative hypothesis is basically stating that the correlation between the two fields is going to be something other than 0. And so as one field increases, the other field is going to move in one direction or another, but in some way that they are related to each other, so that they're actually impacting each other in some way. Let's take a look at the theory and the formulas behind the Pearson correlation coefficient. In this example, we have data for 5 students. We have both their math and their reading scores. You can see that for the first student, this person had a score of 70 on the math test and a score of 75 on the reading test. And then we can see the scores for all of the other individuals in this class. Let's take a look at the actual formula. The formula looks a little more complex than other formulas that we've talked about in this course, but it's still fairly simple. Again, it basically comes down to looking at the values for both of the variables and seeing how these variables actually are related to each other. Here we have the actual formula, and then below that we have the numbers that have been plugged into that formula. I'll let you take a look at that for a minute just so you can see where all of that information came from. But basically what we're doing here is we're basically looking at the products between multiplying the values on the first variable with the second variable. We're also getting the total scores summed across one variable and then summed across the second variable. And then we're also just squaring the values for each of the different values as well for each variable. Now notice the correlation coefficient that we obtained. First of all, notice that it is a positive correlation coefficient. So that means that as math scores increase, so do reading scores. Second, notice the value of this correlation coefficient. This value is pretty high because remember I said that your correlation coefficients are going to range anywhere from -1 to +1. And the closer a value is to the absolute value of 1, the stronger the relationship. So this value that we're seeing here, it's pretty close to the absolute value of 1, further away from a value of 0. And in fact, when we do the statistical test, notice that we have a statistically significant result, meaning that there is a relationship between math and reading scores. And as I mentioned before, this relationship is positive, so that as you increase in math scores, you're also increasing in reading scores. Let's talk about the assumptions of the Pearson correlation coefficient. The first assumption is that the variables that we're looking at are both continuous variables. The second assumption is that each case contributes a pair of observations. That means that you cannot have missing data on one of the variables for one of the cases because, again, you need to see how the variables actually relate to each other. Therefore, the same individual has to be assessed on both variables that you want to see the correlation for. Third assumption is that there is a linear relationship between the variables. This is the assumption of linearity. There has to be a linear relationship. Now, what does that mean? The relationship can be a positive linear relationship, so that as you increase on one variable, you're increasing on the other variable. Notice that here we have 5 different scores, and as we're increasing on math score, we're also increasing on our reading score as well. That would be a positive linear relationship. A negative linear relationship is also valid. This kind of relationship will also work with a Pearson correlation coefficient. Here, what happens is that as you're increasing on one variable, you're decreasing on the other. So as we're increasing in math scores, we're decreasing on our reading scores. But again, the relationship is still linear, so this still works. What doesn't work is when we have nonlinear relationships. In this example, notice that as we're increasing in math score, we're also increasing in reading scores up to a certain point. And then the relationship changes. This is a nonlinear relationship, and this kind of relationship is not assessed by a Pearson correlation coefficient. So, as you'll see in a later video, looking at your scatter plot so that you can visually assess the relationship between the two variables is going to be very important, because you want to make sure that you're looking only at linear relationships when you're looking at the Pearson correlation coefficient. If you have nonlinear relationships, you'd have to use other types of statistical tests. A fourth assumption is that there are no influential outliers. It's okay to have some outliers, but you really want to avoid those influential outliers. Now, what do I mean by that? Notice this example here. Most of our data is up here. We happen to have an outlier down here. Somebody that has a very low math and reading score. But notice that this outlier does not distort the reference line. It falls pretty much right in line where all the other values are. This kind of outlier is not influential. On the other hand, this example, we do have an influential outlier. This is the outlier that we have over here. Somebody had a very low math score but a very high reading score. Notice that all of these other values would really have a reference line that would be somewhere out here, but this influential outlier really distorted the relationship that we had between these two variables. So again, you don't want to have those kind of outliers in your data. Another assumption, the fifth assumption, is that the variables are normally distributed. And we've talked about this assumption for all of the other statistical tests that we've talked about so far. This is the assumption of normality. And again, we want our variables to be normally distributed. We want to have symmetrical variables, unimodal variables, so that they have a bell-shaped curve to them. If you have positively skewed distributions or negatively skewed distributions, again, those typically are not really that much of a problem if you have large enough sample sizes. And again, by large enough, you have at least 30 cases. But again, if you do have bimodal distributions, these could be problematic. All right. So again, those kind of distributions are, you'd want to kind of shy away from those and use potentially some other types of statistical tests. The final assumption is that you have a similar amount of variation throughout the regression line. So you're meeting the assumption of homoscedasticity. Now, what does that mean and what does that look like? In this example here, you can see that towards lower points of the distribution, we have kind of a tight fit where all of the different values are pretty close to each other. But then as we get to higher values, notice the amount of spread. Homoscedasticity is referring to really the amount of variation that you have in your data. So notice, for example, that when we have lower values, all of those different values, how the variables are related to each other, we have kind of a tight line, and there's not that much spread in that distribution. However, as we're getting to higher values, notice the amount of spread that we have here. And that's going to be a problem because, yes, we still have a relationship between these two variables, but there's something else that's going on here. Oftentimes, what that might mean is that there's another variable involved that is somehow affecting higher values and modifying that relationship between the two variables. So that's something that you want to watch out for as well.